So before we start taping this, Tim acknowledged to me that he hadn't seen Tombstone.
He's even older
Am I
than I
that
am.
old?
No.
Am I
He's
that
even
old?
older than I am.
How have you not seen Tombstone?
I'm not a movie buff.
It's the most quotable. It's so great. Tombstone is so great.
I'll take your word for it.
He's not anybody's Huckleberry.
I'm gonna go home and watch it after this.
Favorite Ohio State spring game memory?
Favorite Ohio State
I'll go
spring
first,
game
and you
memory.
guys can think about it since I
Yeah.
literally just sprung this
Yeah.
up. Me was the first press conference. It was the first press conference for spring after Tatgate, and Tressel showed up in fatigues to the
Nice.
press
Yeah, yeah,
conference.
yeah.
You remember this?
I remember seeing
Tress
that.
shows up in fatigues, and he filibusters. We had an hour with Tress. Tress filibustered for 51 minutes, did not take a question. He just talked about every single player on the roster in fatigues for 51 minutes. He got 3 questions, and he walked, and that was the list.
He knew what he was doing.
That was the greatest thing. I remember Twitter was just kind of getting going, and I remember live tweeting it and thinking this is the greatest thing in the history of the world.
Oh, yeah.
The football coach at Ohio State, who's being under investigation for tattoos, is in fatigues filibustering for 51 minutes.
And then he wore the hat to the spring game. And all
So
that.
great.
And stood next
So
to Pryor.
great.
Stood next to Pryor the whole time.
so
Mine
great.
was the Joe Bauserman, Torian Washington spring game, where those guys played out of their minds.
Joe Boswell.
And we were like, hey, they've got a really quick wide receiver and a big arm quarterback.
Torian
And then
Washington, Joe
we
Boswell.
remember what happened with those guys.
Yeah.
So I just find that funny to look back on
That's-
because the spring game, it is important, but if a guy comes out and catches 200 yards,
Right.
receiving yards, it doesn't mean anything.
Settle down.
It doesn't
Yeah.
mean
One thing that stuck with me a couple years ago was they had like some quarterback challenge thing at halftime, and they wanted to see how far everybody could throw the football.
Yeah.
And JT Barrett grabs a ball, takes like a 6-yard crow hop, and launches it 60-some yards. And they hand the ball to Cardale Jones, and I was standing on the field right there, right next to him.
Me too.
They hand the ball to Cardale Jones, and he just like casually just winds up, flick of the wrist, like 68 yards, outthrows JT without even taking a step. Like he just like
arm.
turns his hip,
incredible.
Yeah.
launched it, and like JT like threw his towel at him, shoved him out of the way. Like, it was pretty funny because you always heard these stories about how far Cardale could throw the ball.
And he did it.
One knee,
Sure.
50 yards, hit the
Yeah.
upright type thing, and he literally just like got it, turned, launched it down the field, and out through JT Barrett, who was like,
That's great.
put everything he possibly had into the throw,
into it,
and still
yeah.
couldn't do it.
So hopefully you'll get something this weekend, this Saturday for the spring game, and we'll get you set for the spring game coming up Tuesday on Spectrum Sports and throughout the week. So check your local listings.